Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual Youth Science Summit. We're going to hang out for a couple of minutes while we wait for people to get logged in. But thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Great. Hello, welcome to Kentucky Science Center's 2024 Virtual Youth Science Summit. We really appreciate you joining us today. We're looking forward to engaging with our speakers. We wanted to get a quick introduction from our CEO and President, Mike Norman. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Again, I'm Mike Norman, CEO and President of your Kentucky Science Center. I'm absolutely thrilled, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our 2024 Fall Youth Science Summit. We have, over 1,100 folks register with us today. So I am thrilled that you decided to join us. We have from here in my home state of Kentucky, we have folks from all over our great Commonwealth. I think there's about 9 or 10 different counties from all parts of the state represented. From all over the U.S., we have 7 states, folks from 7 different states joining us. From California, Idaho, Colorado, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. Welcome, welcome. I am so thrilled that y'all have decided to join us. Before we get started, I do want to say express my appreciation to a few folks. First of all, scientist Jenny and this amazing team behind the scenes that you can't see they do so much year long to make this event possible, and it all comes together seamlessly. I want to say thank you to our amazing speakers. Jenny and team have put together an incredible lineup. They're going to share their passion and their STEAM careers with you. And we have the pleasure and the honor in hearing from this series of speakers. They apply STEAM in their everyday work life, and they're strong and creative leaders. They're dedicated to serving their communities. They are prime examples of where a desire of lifelong learning and pursuing your passion can take you. So you're really going to enjoy hearing from them. Let me also give a quick shout out to our sponsors, to Lexmark and Toyota Motor Manufacturing of Kentucky. Without them, we couldn't offer these amazing summits. So thank you again. If you know anybody at Lexmark or Toyota, tell them thank you if you're looking for a car. Camry's a good car. So that's my plug for Toyota today. So, here at Kentucky Science Center, our mission is to promote science literacy, nurture lifelong learning, and prime the STEAM workforce pipeline. So our goal here today, we just want you to be aware of all the amazing STEAM career possibilities. So my challenge for you here today is pretty simple, really. While you listen to the speakers, I want you to dream about what lies ahead for you. The possibilities are endless. The STEAM careers of tomorrow probably haven't even been invented yet. They haven't even been thought of. So really the future is up to you. It's up to you to make it what you want. and do what you want. And I'm positive and confident that you will. So again, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your day. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate it. All right, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hear from our first speaker. We have Abby Hess with us. She is a nurse practitioner at University of Cincinnati Children's Hospital. She is also a nursing professor, and she developed some really cool things to actually help with pediatric patient care. So, Abby, I'm going to go ahead and hand the baton to you.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? All right, perfect. I have some slides to share. Can I go ahead and share that? Just looking here real quick. Oops. Okay. All right. So get started in sharing. I have a video, not 100% sure if it'll play, but we'll see when we get started with that. So I'm Abby Hess. I'm a nurse practitioner, and so I work in direct patient care in the preoperative area with the Department of Anesthesiology, and I'm also a nurse innovator. So I've gotten the opportunity to design a new product to help kids who are scared about having surgery. And so today I really want to share a little bit about my journey, really thinking back from the time that I was in middle school or high school to now, and how I've kind of navigated kind of the different parts of thinking about the career journey and becoming a nurse. And also really want to share kind of how I saw a problem at the bedside that my patients were experiencing and help to translate that into a new innovation. And then really just talk about some resources that maybe you can think about as you're exploring careers in the sciences and technology. So I can remember being in middle school and high school and, really wanting to find something that I would be excited to do every day and be passionate about, but feeling kind of overwhelmed by so many choices. And it's hard to know, I think, when you're younger, because there's just so many things out there. As you mentioned, like the opportunities are constantly changing too, with technology, especially with things like artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's accelerating so quickly. And so even the opportunities that exist today might be different by the time that you graduate from high school or college, or even if you go to graduate school. So trying to figure that out, I tried to just keep thinking what would be something that I could really do to make a positive difference in the world that I would have fun doing, and just kind of kept that at the front and center of my choices and decision making, even though it took me a long time to actually figure that out. And so kind of going from left to right here, after I graduated high school, I knew that I liked the sciences, but I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I took a lot of classes as a freshman in different things, and then decided that I really like psychology and biology. So that's what I majored in. But then when I graduated, I still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do as a career. I looked at medical school, I looked at medical research, I looked at physician assistant. I had a bunch of different areas I was thinking of, but I wasn't quite sure what would be the right fit for me. So when I graduated, I worked for a few years, and that's when I first came to Cincinnati Children's and got to work as a research assistant in a lab, kind of what you think of in research labs, right? The test tubes and DNA and cells and experiments and all that kind of stuff. So I got to learn about the medical research side of things, which was super cool. And I didn't necessarily want to do that forever, but it was a great experience to be able to learn. And that led me to become a nurse because working at the hospital, I got to shadow nurses and talk with them and learn about what they do. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do for a career. And I learned more about the nurse practitioner pathway, where you really get to diagnose and treat patients. And so I went on to do additional school for that. And then I noticed I loved delivering care and seeing patients, but there were so many challenges and problems that I encountered that I wanted to fix. And so that's where I became a clinical researcher and an innovator. And so I'll share a little bit about that story too. And this is a lot of information, so I'll just share the very basics of this. But when you think about different pathways in nursing, there's a ton. So I'll share a resource at the end if you want to learn more. But when you first become a nurse, there's kind of two different pathways. There's an associate's degree that's like 2 years after high school, or there's a bachelor's degree, which is 4 years after high school. And that really gets you the degree where you can be a registered nurse and begin working in clinical care with patients. Then beyond that, there's a lot of different master's degrees in nursing. Many of the ones you might think about are nurse practitioners, and you specialize in family nurse practitioner, psychiatric, critical care, pediatrics. There's a lot of different specialties as a nurse practitioner and other things that you can do kind of beyond that registered nurse degree. And then even beyond that, the degree really have your own lab or own program of research and science, or sometimes being a professor at a university. That's a doctoral degree as a PhD scientist. And the degree that I pursued was the Doctor of Nursing Practice. And so that really helps prepare you to be an expert clinician leader, and also to translate all these exciting discoveries that we find through research to help get them into practice so that they can help patients. So that's a very, very broad overview. There's a whole lot of additional information that you can learn, but just so you kind of have an overview of what that can look like. And so when I started working as a nurse, first I was in recovery room with patients waking up from surgery, and then I became a nurse practitioner, and I was working with kids before they go back to have surgery. And I noticed that many kids, and many adults too, right? They often feel very anxious before they go back to the operating room. And high anxiety before kids have surgery can be associated with some more negative outcomes after surgery, like higher reports of pain and having some delirium when they wake up, and sometimes even long-term negative things. And so we really want to help calm kids and make it as easy as we can. We have medications and we have other things that can help with that. But despite all the things we had, I was still seeing that many of my patients were really scared when it came time to go back to the operating room, breathe air through a little mask, and fall asleep. And so one day, my friend's little son, this is Owen, when he was 3, he came for a surgery, and I was worried that he might have a difficult experience. But after I talked with his mom about it, she said it actually was really easy for him. And so I asked her kind of, well, what made it easy? She said, well, I knew little Owen's favorite story was the 3 Little Pigs. So I told him when he went back to the operating room, he got to become the big bad wolf. And when he put on that mask, he had to huff and puff and blow the house down. So little Owen, when he got back to the operating room, rather than being scared, he actually took the mask from the doctor and he started breathing, and he huffed and he puffed, and he was asleep really, really quickly and not scared at all. And so I began thinking, is there a way that I could translate that into something that could help any of my patients? Not all patients know that story. Some, it's really hard when you're scared to have such an imagination, but maybe we could make it something that could help make it easier for kids when they're going to sleep with anesthesia. And so rather than seeing this kind of scary medical equipment and knowing somebody's going to put a mask on your face and they're going to have to breathe this air and fall asleep, what if we could make breathing into the mask part of a game? And so I applied to our hospital's innovation grant. So our hospital actually has money to help if you want to create something new and you have an idea to do it. So I applied to that to create this breathing controlled video game. And this is Owen a year or two later playing our first prototype of the game. I never knew how much it would take to do healthcare innovation when I started down that journey, but it was kind of amazing because as I stepped into this space of not just being a clinician, but also getting to create something new in healthcare, I got to work with a ton of different people. So designers, engineers, computer programmers, team members who have expertise in business, team members who know about things like intellectual property, like patents and things like that. And then many of our different clinical team members who helped us to learn how to do this and helped us to figure out what would be most helpful for patients. But the amazing thing was when you're working in healthcare innovation, everybody was always thinking of in the center, the patient and the family and their parents. And so when we all were able to combine our different skills, we were able to really help make things better for our patients. I'm going to skip the video just because I'm not sure we'll actually get it to play. But when I look back on this project, we created this breathing control video game that we now can use in clinical practice. And we have a team member who's helping us to get this out to hospitals across the country. And when I think back on this whole project and like things that I did when I was like in middle school and high school with group projects, some of those skills were so important as I learned how to work with all these different people from different professions and do work that was important and meaningful for our patients. And being really highly collaborative, critical thinking, always putting the story together and figuring out what the next steps were, being creative and problem solvers, and being really effective communicators. I think those are things that you learn so much through different experiences in school. And if you keep working to refine those and be better and better at those, I think you'll always do a great job when it comes to working with these teams. And being able to come together with teams to do something new can really help you in any area that you decide to work. And so I would say, kind of thinking just some of my advice in this entire experience in being able to find a career that I'm passionate about and work in both patient care and healthcare innovation. There's so many great opportunities in healthcare. And these opportunities, they're going to continue to change and grow as you go through high school and college. The degree that I ended up doing that helped me to do healthcare innovation, it didn't even exist when I started college. That was a new degree that was developed during the time I was in college. So there's lots of things that'll continue to evolve and change, which is exciting because there will be even more opportunities then than there are now. So keep searching for something you can look forward to doing every week, because you spend a lot of your life doing work, and it's amazing when you can find something that is really fun for you. And ways that you can help do that is if you have a guidance counselor at school, you can talk with them, talking to people that work in the career that you're interested in. If you don't have someone, and that was true for me sometimes in innovation because there weren't always people at my organization or that I knew that did innovation, I listened to podcasts and sometimes reached out to them if I was really excited about learning more about what they do. And then spending time shadowing. I would think that was one of the most helpful things I ever did, was getting to shadow a nurse and a nurse practitioner before I went back to school and just asking them hard questions. What do you love about what you do? What don't you like about what you do? How did you get here? How did you make the decision to get here? Like thinking of those questions, because people are often very happy to help you to figure out what you want to do next. And so I think it's great to know what you want to do for a career, but it's also totally fine to not know. And I think either way, if you stay curious, you keep working hard, and you keep exploring, it can really help you to find something that you're passionate about doing and that you can help make a positive difference in the world. And this is a great resource. It's made actually just for middle schoolers and high schoolers who want to know more about nursing pathways and careers. But if you just Google Johnson & Johnson, why become a nurse? This has a lot of great resources to help you explore and find out more. And there's some cool videos and stuff from nurses. So that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abby. And we already have some questions and we've got a little time. So we have a question from Mr. Tony. Why should our high school students consider a career as an NP instead of an RN or an LPN?
Yeah, that's a great question. They're all different sort of pathways in terms of what you can do in the career. And I think there's different roles and responsibilities versus whether you decide to do an LPN, which is the least amount of school typically, versus a bachelor's or associate's degree in nursing versus a nurse practitioner. So I think really understanding what each of those pathways looks like. Actually, this resource guide that I pulled up, it has a ton of awesome information about all the different pathways. For me, I think when I was looking at the career, talking with people was really helpful. And then just understanding, what did I want to be doing every day? Was it sort of the bedside role? Was it sort of doing something in terms of like being involved with prescribing medications and making diagnoses and things like that? It's really kind of understanding what areas is most interesting to you, but also kind of you can take different steps. You can start in one place and then do some more school later and additional later. And sometimes companies will help and pay for your additional schooling. And so that was true with my company, as they actually have a thing called tuition reimbursement. So if you're working with them in one role and they have funding to be able to help support you to your next role, it actually can help you to not have loans and things like that, or as much of the loans. So that's something to think about, because sometimes you can kind of build that career and work towards that next goal, even if that's not where you start.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abby. We have time for one more question, and I see a raised hand in the crowd. Mira, would you like to ask your question? Let's see. I think we're getting unmuted. Oh, maybe. All right. Okay, well, we might need to follow up with you for that other question. It looks like they might not be able to get their mic all set up right now. But Abby, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing this resource too. And hopefully we've got some future health career professionals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and good luck to everyone. Have fun as you explore.
Thanks, Abby. Bye-bye. All right, you guys. We are going to transition to our next awesome speaker. We have Dr. Lou Hirsch joining us. And he is joining us from University of Kentucky. He does some really cool stuff in agricultural sciences, exploring and researching plant pathology. And he also loves to work with students like you. Very passionate about K through 12 outreach. So Dr. Lou, if you would like to go ahead, we're really excited to hear from you.
Thanks, Jenny. It was a great introduction. So my name's Lou Hirsch, and I'm an assistant professor of plant pathology at the Department of Plant Pathology at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. And I like how Abby, our last speaker, kind of went through her journey, to get into her career in nursing. Mine is a little bit less linear than hers. So I don't know. I think y'all on this call probably have an interest in science because you're spending time out of your life to talk about science today at this. But when I was a kid, I didn't care about science at all. I wasn't a very good student in grade school and high school. I majored in English and religious studies in college. And after college, I went into the maritime industry, and I became a scuba instructor and earned a Coast Guard captain's license, and I managed a scuba diving company, or some scuba diving companies in the Florida Keys and then San Diego. But then my then girlfriend, now wife, got into graduate school at the University of Arkansas. So I decided to follow her to Arkansas with my English degree and my boat captain's license, and started just working odd jobs at restaurants, totally unemployable. And I re-enrolled in college as a non-traditional adult learner because I wanted to do something with fish in biology. It was really naive and kind of ignorant of like how complex things are. But one morning there we were looking at job postings because we didn't have any money. And there was a position called work study where college students can get paid by the government to do kind of minimum wage jobs. And there was one of these work study positions washing dishes in a plant pathology lab. And with all my training and expensive degrees and stuff, I felt pretty good washing dishes. So I went into that plant pathology lab and I washed those dishes really well. And then I was such a good dishwasher that they gave me a little bit more complex, little sciencey thing to do. And it was just following steps on a protocol. And I did that little sciencey thing pretty well. And they kept giving me more and more and more sciencey things until I think they saw that I could follow directions pretty well and was able to think on my feet a little bit. And then there was an opportunity to join the lab that I was washing dishes in for a master's project that remarkably didn't have any prerequisites. I didn't have to have any science background or anything. I just kind of did it and learned as I went. So I have a master's degree in plant pathology, and then I've earned a PhD in plant science with a focus on plant disease genetics. So what do plant pathologists do? Well, we study plant diseases. Pathology is the study of disease. So I assume that most people on this call live in cities, because most people in our society live in cities. About 83% of people live in the cities or suburbs in America. And that means about 17% of people live outside of the cities or suburbs, but only a little tiny percentage of those people actually farm. Based upon tax records, it's about 1.3% of our country is actively engaged in farming. And it's probably actually less than that, because a lot of people will claim that their property is a farm to get a reduced tax burden from the government. And they probably don't farm like how we think farmers farm. So it's not very many people. And we are, as city people, pretty profoundly disconnected from our food. Whenever I go and give science talks about this stuff, I always ask people, where do you get your food? And then the city people always raise their hands and say, oh, well, I get it from the store. And that's true. We do get our food from the store. But where did the store get their food? Well, eventually it came from a seed, probably, or at least a plant that some producer, some farmer grew, probably in the ground, maybe in a hydroponic sort of system, like a big greenhouse or something like that. But it came from the agricultural community. And from a field to your refrigerator, there are a lot of things that get in the way of hurting those plants so they don't produce food that we can eat. The biggest yield reducer in agriculture, globally and in this country, are weeds. Weeds are just plants we don't like, and they outcompete the plants we do like for food and nutrients and water, so they stunt the growth of the plants. The second biggest yield reducer is plant diseases. And in the United States, it's kind of hard to calculate, but on average, we lose around $300 billion of potential agricultural production to plant diseases every year. And that's a huge number. That's bigger than the budgets of most of the states in the United States. And we don't lose a lot of whole crops. We don't have big famines and stuff that come by our country because we're pretty sophisticated and can deal with a lot of diseases. But some of these diseases only cause 5-10% yield reduction. You wouldn't even be able to tell if you looked at an ear of corn that was 5% smaller. But a little tiny bit of reduction multiplied by 300 million acres we grow in corn and soybeans equals a lot of reduced yield and then reduced money. So I don't have slides today, as you guys probably figured out, but I do have some visual aids that I pulled out of the freezer or sampled from my life, getting here today, just to talk to you guys a little bit about some diseases that you may either just kind of see in the news or see in your life. If you guys have ever been around a cornfield, especially now it's time for like corn mazes and stuff like that, you guys have probably seen, or if you haven't seen this, look around if you're in like a corn maze for Thanksgiving, Halloween stuff. And on occasion, you'll see an ear of corn sticking out from the corn plant that has this big black tumorous growth on it. And that's a disease called corn smut. So let me get my paper towel here because this is very gross. So this is a corn ear, and you can see this is kind of the normal corn down here, but up here there's this huge black glob. And this black glob is actually a fungus that has colonized the corn when it's silking, when it's trying to get those, each kernel gets its own silk, and a piece of pollen lands on the silk, grows down, and then fertilizes the kernel. So these fungal spores are blown around in the wind. They land on a silk, they grow down the silk, and then they infect the developing corn kernel. And this up here, it's kind of hard to see because it's clumpy. I took it out of the freezer. I picked this about a month ago. This is probably only 5 or 10 infected kernels. And what this fungus does is it turns this kernel into kind of a huge tumor factory where it sucks out nutrients from the corn plant and turns those corn sugar nutrients into fungal spores. So this will be a little bit hard to tell, but let me kind of rub it here. Oh, it's all squishy and spongy. Can you guys see how on my finger there's this sort of black goo? This black goo, if we were to put these under a microscope, are actually probably on here somewhere between 10 and 50 million black spores, which are microscopic. We call them propagules, but they're kind of like the fungal equivalent of a seed. And any one of these spores, if it blows around and lands into a susceptible plant, can actually grow on the plant, infect it, colonize the plant, and then cause disease. So if there's like maybe 50 million spores on my fingertip, guess how many spores there are in this infected ear? Here's another infected ear. They can get really, really big. Sometimes they're as big as my head. And there are unquantifiably huge numbers of spores in each of these smutted corn ears, that any one of which can kind of blow around and land on some corn and then infect it. I always also like to ask people, oh, it's dripping down. Oh, it's dripping down my hand. Gross. I always ask people, who would eat this? And I guess I'm gonna look at the attendees here just really quick. If you guys are paying attention, could you raise your hand real quick to tell me if you would eat this? And I'm looking. This is a good test to see. Either everyone's asleep or nobody would eat it. I'll ask you guys another question. Who wouldn't eat this? Raise your hand. Melissa would not eat it. Mr. Tony, not eating it. That's fair. It's pretty gross, but you can eat it. And actually, yeah, you see Henry not eating it. Good call. So if you were just to eat corn for your entire life, you would die because there's not enough amino acids in corn to provide our bodies with the energies we need to survive. But this fungus, when it infects a corn, produces the amino acids that corn doesn't make. So actually, if you ate corn with this fungus, you would be able to, I mean, you wouldn't probably be super strong and stuff, but you wouldn't die. It has all the nutrients you need to survive. And so corn was domesticated in central Mexico, probably around 7,000 or 8,000 years ago. And people started eating this, and they figured out that if you ate it, it didn't make you sick. And there's actually a product now where if you go to really fancy Hispanic markets, it's kind of a delicacy. I have some canned items right here. This is from Nahuatl, which is the language of the Aztecs that is still spoken in lots of parts of central and southern Mexico. It's pronounced Huitlacoche or Cuitlacoche. My Nahuatl isn't very good. Or some people call them corn truffles. And these are kind of a delicacy now in a lot of kind of higher end Hispanic markets. There is there's a really nice like Peruvian restaurant in downtown Lexington. And on occasion, they'll have like tacos and quesadillas with this stuff in it. And they're like $20 a piece. And I always get them just so I could, try the wares and stuff. And I also cook these sometimes in my class. So I never suggest to people, don't put this in your mouth if you're just walking around in a corn maze sometime. If you don't know what it is, don't eat it. But these are edible products, and people do, kind of make their careers growing this, selling this, and eating this. So turning direction a little bit to something more that you guys have probably seen before. Everyone's pretty familiar with the banana. It's a little bit cold in Lexington this morning, and I rode my bike to work. So it's a little bit brown because it got cold, but this morning it was nice and yellow. But probably, as you guys can tell, this banana's getting a little bit old. And you can see here, all throughout it, there's these little tiny spots. And I bet you a lot of you guys are going to be today years old when you learned that these spots are not a natural part of the banana. They're actually a symptom of a disease that this banana has, and almost every single banana has, called anthracnose, which is Latin for anthrax, which means blackening. So what happens here is that, and I took the sticker off, but this banana came from Guatemala, according to the sticker that I took off this morning. And when this banana was hanging in the banana tree in Guatemala, these fungal spores were blown around in the air, like they always do. They landed on the peel of this banana as it was kind of small and green, and they got hard and they kind of hung out there. And then they sat there or stuck there on this peel when it was picked, when it was put, probably carried on someone's shoulder to a little train track in a cart, or was put onto that cart, moved to a truck, which was then moved to a bigger facility, which was moved to a bigger truck, then put into a big shipping container, and then shipped to America, and then put onto a train car, and then driven into a train car, probably to a distribution center somewhere in central Kentucky, put into a semi-truck, which was then driven to the local Kroger where I shop, and then this was put on my shelf. It took about 3 days. It's pretty cool and pretty sophisticated. But then once this banana started to ripen, it produces a chemical called ethylene, which triggers a bunch of different sort of changes in the banana, makes it sweeter, first of all. But these fungi can sense that chemical, and they kind of wake up from their hibernation, punch through the banana peel, and then start growing through the rind or the peel of the banana. They don't make any toxins. They're not going to make you sick. By the time there's a ton of fungal growth into the banana, it is so brown and gross, it's not even good enough for banana bread. So you don't need to worry. Don't eat the peel. That's weird behavior. Don't eat banana peels. But doing so, you wouldn't get sick. Your friends may make fun of you. But there's nothing wrong about eating these bananas with spots. And another kind of cool banana fact is that these fungi, when they punch through, these fungi are small and the peels are pretty hard. So they require a tremendous amount of pressure to punch through the banana rind. It's equivalent to about 16.4 micronewtons with a standard deviation of 2.3 micronewtons. That doesn't matter anything to anybody. But if you go to Google and kind of do a little conversion table, that's the equivalent of a guy like me. I'm 175 pounds. I'm 5'8", being able to punch through a plate of steel that's 1.5 inches thick. Or someone like me curling a hook and ladder fire truck 5 times with one arm. It's one of the strongest forces in nature, natural forces in nature, secondary to like meteor strikes and earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. It just happens microscopically on a banana, so we don't even think about it. One last note on bananas, and I want to toss it over for some questions here before my time's up in 5 minutes. But these bananas are going extinct. So there are about 1,200 varieties of bananas. We eat one of them. This is called the Cavendish banana. So just how there's a lot of apples with names, bananas have names too, and we eat this one. This banana is susceptible to a disease called Panama disease, and it's caused by a fungus named Fusarium oxysporum formis specialis cubensi, which is crazy, so we call it FOC because it's easier. And bananas are clonal. That's why I'll open it up here. There's no seeds. Seeds should be in here. So these are actually asexual plants. They're clonal. So when you look at a banana plantation, could be 10,000 acres, 5-10 times the size of your school probably, and look at all those trees, they're all the same genetically, which is great when you're looking to get a banana that looks the same because people don't buy weird looking bananas, but it's really bad when they become susceptible to a disease. So all of our bananas now are imperiled by this disease through which there's no cure. So in probably the next 5 or 10 years, we're not going to see any more of these bananas because they're going to become commercially extinct. What we will see are some weird looking bananas. They'll be tiny, they'll be long, they'll be thick, they'll be thin, they'll be red, they'll be green. What I always encourage people when I give this talk is to, when you go to the store, buy those weird bananas. They're not plantains. That's a different thing. But like just a weird banana. It'll be kind of in like the weird tropical fruit section of most grocery stores. And give it a shot because they taste pretty good. There's lots of really good bananas out there that we don't even eat. And when you do that, you're establishing a market for those different bananas that probably are resistant to this disease. So then you're providing the banana industry an opportunity to, plant their way out of this disease. I have one more example, but I think we're kind of running out of time, and I wanted to toss the mic out to you guys for questions. I see Mr. Tony KMI has his hand raised. Maybe he didn't lower it for the previous question. I don't know.
Yeah. Dr. Hirsch, thank you so much. That was fascinating. Really appreciate it. We have a couple of great questions that we'd love to have you answer. So Mr. Tony has a question. Do you have any experience working on a farm? In your current job, do you ever visit farms and assist farmers today?
Great question. I don't do that a lot. My job is mainly developing like undergraduate programs and curriculum. I'm in charge of a lot of different majors here at the college. But a lot of my peers, my colleagues, their entire job is interfacing with growers. Our country has a really cool system called the land grant university system that was actually established during the Civil War, where every state has a outward-facing agricultural unit associated with the university that helps growers increase agricultural productivity. So the University of Kentucky's our land grant. I'm in the College of Agriculture, and 5 of my colleagues spend almost all their time engaging with growers. But I'm more of an indoorsman. It takes all sorts. So I just mainly kind of help the on-campus stuff. But great question.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lou. And then we have another awesome question. How did you get interested in fungi?
I had no idea. I guess I knew about like mushrooms and stuff when I was a kid. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. There's not a lot of fungi in Phoenix. It's a desert. So when I got into this plant pathology lab and started washing dishes, they had me do like that petri dishes of fungi, and I had to take a little bit from one and put it into a new media plate so they can kind of start growing and stuff. And I got to just learn that this whole other kingdom of organisms that I never really thought about are incredibly cool. Without fungi, our society wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have all these really cool medicines. Almost every antibiotic we had was derived from a fungus. They're chemicals that fungi make to kill bacteria in nature that are trying to eat their food. Bread and beer, which are really important parts of how society moved from hunting and gathering to sort of like villages and cities, those require fungi to make. We eat fungi all the time. Bread, like I said, we wouldn't have it. This Huitzilopochtli stuff. It's incredibly interesting. And then once I learned that plants can get sick, because I didn't know that intuitively as a city kid, and that fungi can cause disease, I got to see this whole cool like network in my brain of like host pathogen interactions. Probably a lot of people on this call want to go into human medicine like how Abby did, and that's great. We're an increasingly sick society. We need a lot of health professionals. But I look at the same sort of relationships between the pathogens and the diseases that they cause, just in an agricultural setting. But a lot of the relationships are the same. And we can do a lot more in-depth experiments with plants and fungi because they don't have rights. So we can just get in there and just do kind of crazy things. And we don't have to, worry about hurting them or anything like that. So we're able to get at, in a lot of ways, really answer more fundamental questions about how these microbes and their bigger plant hosts interact with each other.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Hirsch. Very inspiring words. Hopefully we've got some people excited about agricultural sciences here. Great questions from the crowd. Thank you so much for your time. And I actually think Dr. Hirsch is headed to a class right after this.
Yep, I'm going to be teaching about this disease today, actually, weirdly enough. So, yep, my undergraduates are waiting for me. I will wish you all goodbye. Good luck. Stay curious. The stuff is worth it.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Hirsch. We appreciate your time.
See y'all. Have a good one.
You too. All right, everybody. We are going to transition to our next speaker. I'm going to help get them over here real quick. So Henry Eng will be joining us. He is the VP of Cooking for General Electric, GE. And we're really excited to hear from him. He has had experience all over the world through GE, through the U.S. Army. So really looking forward to hearing more about that. So Henry, I think we have got you to a panelist if you want to take it away.
All right. Can you hear me, Jeannie? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me today. And I'm super excited. When the Science Centers talked about the Youth Science Summit. And so at first, everybody, after listening to Dr. Hirsch, it was just fantastic, his view on food and agriculture. People were probably asking, well, why is the appliance guy on this? What does this have to do with science? Well, when you think about cooking, cooking is science. It's all about time, temperature. They are the two primary variables that affect everything we cook. Dr. Hirsch talked about bread. Fundamentally, yeast is a chemical reaction as the yeast breaks down the sugar and creates CO2 and ethanol, which creates the air in your bread. And then I'm sure all of you have heard about the Maillard reaction, where the amino acids and sugars interact with heat to create that browning and that flavor. So that's what cooking is about. And I'm sitting here in our cooking lab. I do have a presentation that I want to take you through. So let me pull that up on the screen. All righty, and hopefully you can see it at this point. So, oops. Okay, so let me start with the history of cooking. I work at the General Electric Appliance Company. I lead the cooking business. We have about 250 STEM folks on our team. When I say STEM, I'm talking about mechanical and electrical engineers that design our products. We have software engineers as well as computer scientists that design the application, as well as the food scientist that creates the wonderful food that we cook in our ovens and our ranges. We are the oldest cooking appliance business in the US. We created the first line of appliance in 1907, over 100 years ago, and we haven't stopped since then. Just within the last, I would say 20 years, if you look at our acceleration, it's all about the digitization of cooking. You see there in 2018, the precision oven modes and guided cooking. I'll talk about a little bit about that. And then ultimately, even as we get into the over-air updates to make your ovens even more powerful than they are when you buy them. So what is precision cooking and guided cooking? A lot of us love food, but how many of us can truly cook to the quality of a chef's precision? And so that's what we're trying to do. When we're talking about precision cooking, it's ability for you to set precise temperature. As I mentioned, temperature and time are the key to cooking. And then ultimately have chefs guide you through these cooking process so they can show you the step. And here's a demonstration and a video. Okay. All right. So not only are we enabling the consumer to be able to cook better, guiding them through the cooking process and giving them precision products, now we're connecting all our appliances and giving them better usability. So you look on the left there, all our appliances are connected and upgradable. We're launching incremental cooking modes such as air fry. So you could have bought an oven 3 years ago that didn't have air fry, but then we pushed the air fry capability to the oven, as well as additional contents and marrying that together to give you ideas like the turkey mode that we launched in Thanksgiving to enable the users to cook a perfect Thanksgiving dinner. Recently we just worked with Omaha Steak to launch a steak mode, which essentially will give you the ability to cook your own steak in the winter without the access to the grill. So let me move forward to this. Okay. I understand. I just saw the note that you cannot see the PowerPoint. Are you seeing it now?
Hey, Henry. Yes, we can see the PowerPoint.
Okay. I
Yep,
apologize.
we've actually seen it since you pulled it up.
Oh, okay, good, good.
You're
So,
good.
it's great to talk about, all the cooking modes and talking about the over-the-air capabilities. But in the end, it's how are people cooking? Oftentimes when we think about cooking, we watch the Food Network and we think about cooking from scratch, where the ingredients are fresh and we're bringing those together and we're deciding what we want to cook and ultimately gathering those ingredients and cooking it. Now, that's great. But the reality is 90% of us don't do that on a day-to-day basis. We are really assembling the products from the grocery store, or we're reheating products, whether it's a processed meal. And ultimately, there are times that we just don't want to do anything and we order from takeout. But in each one of those cases, as we go through this journey, it is incredibly similar. We do a lot of planning. I call that "what are we having for dinner" question, right? And we go through that planning stage of what do we have for dinner? What do we have in our kitchen? How do we create the best meal based on everything that we have? Or do we call in, Texas Roadhouse for a delivery? So all of those processes are very important to how we look at how people cook and how they interact with it on a day-to-day basis. And what we're trying to do is tie in that technology from an appliance perspective to give you the capability to have precision in your cooking process, to guide you through the cooking process, to have the applications that give you that enhanced interface and that enhance consumer experience. So let me take you to, so we worked with Google and we actually said, hey, look, in the planning stage, as we're looking at different items in our refrigerators, how do we give ideas for menus? So working with Google and using AI, we created what's called Flavorly. So here's a quick video of that. And then that takes me to really what we're trying to solve from a consumer standpoint, developing this cooking ecosystem and what's for dinner. So we talked about, the cooking process, but the cooking process really starts from that question of what's for dinner and how do you plan for that. Working with Google, developing a recipe generator, it's amazing. We've had over 400,000 recipes that's been developed using this generator. And what's more important is that 40% of the people that created the recipes actually saved the recipe in their app so that they could use it for later and decide to cook it as a part of their meal for that week. We've partnered with food partners as well as grocery stores. So as you like a recipe, it will create an item list, and all of a sudden your local Kroger or Whole Foods can deliver those items to you in the portions and in all of the requirements for that recipe. And then ultimately on our side, as part of the ecosystem, the ability to enable our prep appliances such as stand mixers so that they're enabled to have the right speed, the right algorithm to create the right cakes, the consistency, and then sending all that information to our cooking devices to be able to provide you with the perfect meal. So ultimately, that's what the cooking ecosystem we're trying to develop here at GE Appliances. And, we can't do it without scientists. We can't do it without the mechanical and electrical engineers that develop our products, the computer scientists and the software engineers that develop the applications, and linking all of that with the partners around us. So I think we have a bit of time here for questions. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Jeannie.
All right. Thank you so much, Henry. I bet a lot of us did not know much of that at all. So I feel like we just learned a lot of information. We already have a great question if you would like to field that. What's your favorite dish to cook? It's actually kind of a multifaceted question. Which cooks food better, convection or standard ovens? And what's the best temperature to cook meat for it to be done?
Okay, let me, I'll start with the last question since that's fresh on my mind. It actually is, it varies depending on the temperature of the meat. So when you saw the steak mode, what we actually do is we measure the internal temperature of the steak as well as the external temperature of the oven cavity. So we work with the food scientists to determine the multiple levels that people like, whether from rare all the way to well done. So in the case of a medium rare steak, we recommend about 130 degrees. So we're cooking the steak to that 130 degree temperature. Now that's easy to try to, say it's at 130 degrees. But what we're trying to do is actually nail it so that the carryover temperature, because you're applying a thermal mass to that steak, that steak is a thermal mass, and it continues to climb even though that we take it out of the oven. And then at the end, we broil the steak to make sure that it has that brown crust and that Maillard reaction that we all enjoy. So maybe when you talk about what's an item that I like to cook, it's definitely steak. But when you look at it overall, it's amazing because the things that we generally find very difficult to cook, pancakes, I'll give you an example. Sometimes cooking the consistency of the first pancake versus the last pancake, and you get the different coloration in the finish. Having the ability to precisely control the temperature of the oven by using our cooktops create the ability for us to turn out the same quality from the first one to the last. And then the question regarding convection versus a normal, all it is if you think about an oven, right? We have heating modes on the top and bottom, and that provides a conductive cooking within the oven. But then we have a fan with a heating element in the back that circulates the air. So interestingly enough, you think about your standard air fryer that are on the countertop, that's all it's doing. And we're doing the same thing in our oven. So our ovens have always been air fryers since the first time they came out. And that's why the air fryers were developed to really take advantage of that oven quality on the countertop. So great question.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. That was lovely. We have another question. We're kind of the workplace. Why did you choose to work at GE?
I've been with the company 26 years. And at first, to be honest, I think if you read my bio, I was in an Army officer for 8 years. I came out, I wanted to work in a factory. And I thought, okay, I know what to do with my hands. And that ultimately was what my goal and career objective was. I was a biochemist as an undergrad, so a bit of a STEM background. So when I came on board, it was really to look at this from a how do we, how does GE Appliances fit into what I perceived as my career journey. Now, why I stayed, fundamentally is about the people. I talked about the excitement about my 250 food scientists and product developers. A little bit history. GE was actually founded by Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. And so his legacy of innovation has continued to push down into everything that we do and everything we do in cooking. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. I have a question for you. Where is one of the coolest places you've traveled for work?
We have factories in Turkey. So I think Istanbul is just an amazing city within, because I think it geographically, obviously, it sits on the Bosphorus, so it overlaps between Europe and Asia. But you fundamentally feel that in the culture and in the people, everything from the construction of the building to the the history behind the city. So it's just a fascinating place, and I think in a global company like ours, we do have the opportunity to do that. When I started out my career here at GEA, the majority of our of plants, unfortunately, were actually in China as a part of during the probably 80s, 90s. A lot of U.S. companies migrated factories overseas. I'm proud to say, a lot of that we've brought back over the last 10 years or so. So, you look at where a lot of our ranges are made, all the products that you see behind me, they're made here in Lafayette, Georgia. We also have a plant that we own in Mexico, but the interaction and integration between those two facilities is just fantastic in bringing manufacturing and science and capabilities back to the States.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Henry. And it was really cool to learn more about that landscape there. We really appreciate your time, sharing your experience, giving us a better idea of what you do over there. And I think we all feel like we learned some really interesting and applicable stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeannie.
All right. Thanks, Henry. All right. And now we are going to hop over to our next speaker. So we have Stacey Purifoy-Jones with us. She is actually a U of L Speed School graduate. So she got her education here locally, and she now works for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and oversees a lot of their awesome projects. I think a little bit of focus in housing and property like that, but oversees, develops, is involved in the construction elements of those designs. So Stacey, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So I'm very happy to be here. So I am going to queue up my presentation. So we're going to look at a little bit of a slideshow. So if somebody can confirm, I'm going to share my screen here in just one moment. So can you all see me?
Yes, we can see you.
All right. And then so Jenny, you can see the presentation, correct?
Not quite yet.
Okay, so we'll give it a minute.
Okay. Yeah, I think for the last one, it also took a second for it to get loaded up on the screen.
Oh, yes. I'll try to remember that.
Oh, no. You're good. We'll let you know when it pops up.
Okay.
All right, Stacey, it looks like it's up there.
All right, awesome. So good morning, everyone. Real happy to be here. Like Jenny said, my name is Stacey Purifoy-Jones, and I do work for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I work for the Louisville District out of Louisville, Kentucky. So today I'm going to show you all how the Corps of Engineers uses STEM I should say STEM/STEAM professionals to help us to do our mission. So I understand that science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So I would just like to share with you all what we do and how STEAM professionals help us to do our jobs every day. So I will give it a second. So just real quick, we are a federal agency. Like I said, I work out of Louisville, but technically there are 43 districts within the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers within the United States and worldwide. So we are primarily civilians. So even though this says USACE as in Corps of Engineers, we're not military officers. Majority of our workforce is civilians, about 37,000. Now we do have a military component. So we have 800 military personnel that support our mission. And overall, we have a budget about $62 billion. And our mission is really to solve the world's engineering problems, because we have a mission to support, keep the public safe. And so we're addressing a lot of different issues. Some may be regional, some may be more local. So that's what we do. And so now this is some of the missions that we work. We have a big military program. We have civil works. That's really important. We also do a lot of international and interagency work where we're supporting other federal agencies. Noted here, we have geospatial, contingency operations, and a lot of times those are helping in emergency situations, but we also do research and development as well. So I would like to focus on a few areas that we specifically do here in Louisville. So this next slide here is the breakdown as far as Louisville District's area of operations. As noted here, we do navigation, flood risk management, we do military construction, we do some regulatory work as well. We do have that emergency management piece and environmental, and I also noted that interagency support to other federal partners. So if you look to that box to the right here, we have our military and environmental programs. As far as square miles, you're looking at over 300 square miles we support. Our primary mission is made up of 5 states, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, and Ohio. So that's what we do. And within that 5-state, far as for military and environmental, we actually support 18 active duty installations. Now, our civil works mission is a little bit different. We only have about 67,000 square miles, but we do a lot of flood risk reduction, and that's with our lakes. We do navigation locks and dams along the Ohio River. And we have 2 locks and dams that's along Green River, but predominantly we're most known for is the Ohio River. We do have a few nationwide programs, national programs. And when I say nationwide, that might be stateside, but actually that includes overseas work as well. So we support the Army and Air Force reserves as far as their national needs. And we also have an energy resilience and conservation investment program as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about those. So at this time, I just like to focus on a few of our main missions and just let you share a little bit of information about what we do and how STEAM professionals help us. So real quick, I have a little video I would like to share with you guys, and we're going to talk about what locks and dams do. So I'm going to turn it over to Autumn. If you could play the video, please, ma'am.
All right. We might need you to stop your share real quick, Stacey.
I sure will. Here you go.
Thank you. Sorry, everyone. We might just need a second to work through some technical difficulties. And we're going to try and get that audio attached to the video. All right, looks like we have it figured out, you guys. Here we go.
Welcome to the always beautiful John Day Dam, located 216 miles upstream of the mouth of the Columbia River, near the city of Rufus, Oregon, which you've probably never heard of, and no one could blame you. At the time of its completion in 1971, this chamber was the highest single lift navigation lock in the world. It's still the nation's highest, with a maximum lift of 113 feet. That's almost 17 LeBron Jameses. That's a big lift. Hey, navigation lock, what's your max bench? Whatever it is, rest assured this lock is pretty swole.
One of our operators, while doing routine inspections, noticed that there was a gate guide wheel hanging down in the nav lock on the sail. It was on a ledge.
These wheels help keep the 215,000-pound vertical lift gate aligned as it moves up and down. So, you might say they're wheel important. Engineers and maintenance crews with the Corps inspect the lock at John Day, along with their other Columbia River navigation locks, each winter. Then, every 5 years, they empty the locks like store toilet paper aisles in March 2020 to take a closer look.
We had mechanical and structural engineers come out and assess the situation, realized that we could get the gate into an open position, the open position being the gate is down, which would allow vessels to go back and forth through the nav lock.
The Columbia Snake River system is one of the nation's most vital trade waterways, each year exporting more than 56 million tons of cargo valued at $23 billion. A good portion of that comes from wheat harvesting, which was gearing up right when the lock broke. Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney would call it a perfect storm. We just cried at first. Vessel travel is the safest and most fuel-efficient method of cargo transport. A single barge on this river would translate to more than 130 large semi-trucks on the highway. That's a lot of Sylvester Stallones working on their arm wrestling game. 6 commercial vessels pass through the John Day lock every day. Damn. You can probably only imagine how many trucks that is. Frankly, it was too much for us to want to sit down and do the math. A navigation lock, like the one we're talking about in this video, is essentially a big water elevator that lowers and raises vessels traveling along the river. A vessel enters the lock chamber. With the gates closed, the lock is either emptied or filled, depending on the direction of travel.
And so once we were able to get the gate in open position, we then started utilizing the caisson, which is a floating bulkhead that we use as a gate in this case, which allows us to continue passing traffic.
The caisson floats until it's filled with water. When it's filled, it sinks. Magic. To keep barges moving along the river, Corps operations and maintenance crews, with the help of a trusty tugboat named Diane, had to empty the caisson, move it out of the way for incoming vessels, then put it back and empty it out to close off the lock once again. For every single vessel. It increased lockage times from about 45 minutes to an hour and a half. But hey, like my exercise game, moving is still moving.
We came to the determination that the bushings on all 4 of our gate guide wheels needed to be replaced.
Here at the Corps of Engineers, we do our best to continue solving the nation's toughest challenges by working 24/7 for the American people. The dedication of the crews here on scene is just another chapter in that story.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I will come back and take over. Okay, so if you can confirm you can back to seeing the presentation, please let me know.
Yep, it is pulled back up, Stacey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So thank you, Ottoman team, for that. So you heard about navigation. So real big locking dam that we have here in Louisville is the McAlpin locking dam. In the video, you heard about John Day. And again, that's our sister district that was doing that video. They're out of Portland. But here in Louisville, we have McAlpin. And I heard in the video, they're doing and transporting about 56 million tons. Well, here in Louisville, where McAlpin is, we're doing 50 million tons that is going through. We have the Louisville Repair Station here. So they perform inspections and they make major repairs to the locks and dams, and they help with flood reduction structures as well. So they can respond to emergencies that's along the Ohio River and the waterways. They have a towboat, they have work boats, they have floating cranes that they use, a machine shop, and warehouse barges along the electrical power generation barges, right? So they have all this type of work. entities and equipment to help support the transportation of goods. Because as you heard in the video, it is the most economical and efficient way to move goods. So when we're thinking about STEAM professionals in this case, they not only support us during design, construction, but we have maintenance as well. On this chart here, you see different ones listed. So not only do we have engineers, and we have construction reps, and our construction reps not only do quality assurance for projects just to make sure contractors are meeting the requirements as specified and as designed, but we also help them and get their support for schedules. So all doing the construction aspect, and we control those dates. We want to know if we're on schedule, and that's just best to support our customers, and in this case, the public. As you heard in the video, these locks and dams, they're in operation 24/7. So you need skilled forces to keep them moving, right? So in here, we have noted machinists, we have carpenters, welders, all those type of professionals are on staff, equipment mechanics every day. So some others that you may not think about is our public affairs specialists. Based off of our mission, they help us to put out accurate and timely information to the public. So like I said, we have a requirement to safeguard the public. We have requirements to keep these waterways navigable. So our public affairs specialists are some of our teammates that really help us to tell our story and keep everybody informed. So their role is important. We have also archaeologists noted here. Archaeologists are actually scientists. I don't know if everybody else was tracking it. I did not realize that archaeologists were actual scientists. And so they're verifying that there are no cultural resources in the vicinity of where we're doing whatever our mission is, right? We're not endangering any species. They perform surveys. They write technical reports. And when they're out here doing these surveys, they're literally doing grids. They're doing like 1 foot by 1 foot sections, digging holes, checking to see if there are any artifacts in the area and documenting those, because we're all about preservation and maintaining the history, right, of where we work. So that is real important. So actually, archaeologists are very vital, and they are actually involved in every mission that we do. So they are not only looking for artifacts, but they're also researching genealogy archives just to see if there's any presence or history of other cultures that we may be impacting. They're out there using compasses and tapes to document anything they find. And they actually do something called radiocarbon dating. And they're actually studying the organics that they come across to help date some of the artifacts if they find them in the area. So if you are interested in archaeology, being an archaeologist in the United States, you would study anthropology, right? And they have different areas that you can branch out to. Archaeology is one, biological archaeology is one. They also have cultural anthropology is one as well. But if you was in Europe, you would need to study history, which I thought was quite interesting that their perspective on the background is a little different than us in the United States. So it's good to know there. So I'm going to move to our next one. So environmental. So we have a really big environmental mission, and it's very important as far as what we do. We restore degraded ecosystems. And so when we're talking about that, we're talking about we want to minimize any damage to the ecological systems that we're working in, right? We want to use best management practices. Not only we want to raise awareness about endangered species that potentially is in the area, we want to protect areas. And that includes like wetlands. And if we're doing anything that impacts them, we want to restore those areas, right? As more information becomes available, that's very important. So we need select staff to help us to do that. We want to have a diversity of species. We want to keep maintaining that. And we do that through water treatment. We want to remove any type of contamination. And that's typically done through our Clean Water Act, but they're very important. we have constructing sustainable facilities. And we're thinking about, we want to keep things green and use sustainable designs as much as possible because we just want to minimize or reduce any negative impacts to the actual environment itself. Now we have in here regulating our waterways, we're managing natural resources, and we're definitely cleaning up contaminated sites, especially when we had military operations going on. We have places and land that they no longer need that area for military testing. So we want to repurpose that land. So we have to make sure all contamination is removed and it is safe for public use. So we do a lot of work related to that. Here we talk about meeting applicable state and federal water quality standards. Very important. So the Corps of Engineers, we're going to enforce those regulations. So yeah, it's very important to preserve the environment. So the type of STEAM professionals that we have here are a little bit different, right, than what we have for the navigation team, because in this case, we have biologists, we have toxicology folks, geologists, industrial hygienists, chemists, and, not just engineers and ecologists. And again, how about those archaeologists? They are still involved in everything we do. So our industrial hygienists, they're going to analyze, they're going to study, identify, and measure hazards or stresses to anything that can impact our environment that might cause sickness or any discomfort to actual workers. That is their mission. So we're going to make sure we're protecting people at all times. And that's what the industrial hygienists is really focused on. We have our ecologists where they're studying our relationships with organisms and the environment, right? How we as human impact them. So we have those type of professionals on our staff. Toxicologist folks, they are studying how chemical, biological, and physical agents can harm living organisms and the environment. So no matter what we are doing to execute and support our mission, we have that safety impact, not only for people, but also for the environment as well in the surrounding areas. So that is a big focus. Here, as far as our interagency and our international services mission, we locally here in Louisville, we have a new VA medical facility that's in works, right? It is currently 53% complete. So these pictures are just a few of the views from that current facility. The top, you can see the scale as far as how massive structure this is. The bottom picture is our parking garage. And then the bigger picture, of course, is all of our facilities that's on there. So I'm going to see here. So this project was pretty massive. It is the largest one that had been awarded in the Louisville district at $941 million. And that was at August of 2021. And it will accommodate 104 inpatient beds. And it is literally 1 million square feet. This facility is. It's world-class, and it will support, based off its location, an estimated 45,000 veterans. And that's slated to be completed in 2026. So very important to what we do here. So the medical center itself is over 900 square feet, 900,000 square feet. We have a central utility plant. That's where we're tracking all of our utilities operations are managed out of. That's actually 42,000 square feet. This facility will have 2,600 square feet of, well, I shouldn't say square feet, but individual parking spaces. And then they have 36 specialty clinics that's going to be here. Some of those include primary care, dental, mental health, home-based primary care services, spinal cord injury, substance abuse. So those are the type of services they're going to provide. They're actually going to have also a specialized section just for women's health care and behavioral mental health too. That's separate. And they're also going to have a telehealth component as well with this facility. So, and as we noted here, we still have the same type of professionals that help us to do our jobs. But in this case, we actually have some interior designers, right? I didn't talk about them previously, but this is going to be very important because they're going to help us to space equipment where it's supposed to. They're going to make sure Our facility is going to meet those technical requirements, and it's going to make it pleasant for those who will occupy the space. So that might be getting different furnitures, any types of fixtures or specialized equipment. The interior designer are going to come in and help us to plan accordingly, help the customer pick out the best materials and aesthetics to meet their mission or the cause they're trying to support, to set the way. In this case, for our VA hospitals, we want to take care of our veterans, right? So really big to accommodate them. We want everyone to have a positive, pleasant workspace that's also meeting the missions. And of course, if you're somebody that has to use these resources, we want people to be comfortable. So this was a really major project for us here in the Louisville district. So, and like I said, it was the most, as far as dollar value, awarded. So another part of our mission is our big military construction mission. So what we do is we support other federal agencies. In this case, this first project I'd like to talk to you all about is DODEA, and that stands for the Department of Defense's Educational Activities Van Voorhees Elementary School. And this is located on Fort Knox. So it cost about $59 million and was awarded in 2021. It accommodates grades pre-K through 5th grade. And it supports 510 students. And that facility just opened here in August. And it was done a year ahead of schedule, right? Because this need was so great. Now, DODEA, they specialize in this 21st century approach for their learning facilities. They want people to have effective curriculums, but they want spaces that can accommodate both small individual one-on-one as well as large groups sessions as well. They are flexible spaces. They have learning neighborhoods where they consolidate students into certain groups. So depending on your grade, you never have to leave your section of the building because they all equally have the same resources and access. So some other special features that this facility has is they have occupational and physical therapy spaces, and they also have accommodations for learning impaired students as well. So whatever the need is, DODEA is focused on supporting military families. So it's a really big deal to have these type of facilities. So this is just one type of military construction that we in Louisville supports. Next is our Energy Resilience and Conservation Investment Program. And this is we call it ERSA by short. Now, this is a fairly new program for the Louisville district. We just had it in the last couple of years. Now, the projects in this group were projected to be about $1.6 billion in value and currently includes 66 projects is here. Now, what we're using is a centralized approach where even though these projects are all throughout the United States and overseas, Kuwait, Europe, they are centrally managed out of the Louisville district in partnership with our Huntsville Center. So we just recently awarded our first 3 contracts here in August and September for this. And this is Puerto Rico. 2 of them are in Puerto Rico and 1 is in Kuwait. So pretty fun. But as you see here, STEAM professionals are pretty much the same. We need engineers, geologists, construction reps. Those interior designers are important still, archaeologists, and we definitely need our public affairs specialists. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about our energy program here. So let me go back real quickly to think about something here. So this picture on the screen here is a microgrid. So off to the left, you will see PV arrays or PV panels. Those are photovoltaic panels that are there. And that green thing is a generator. So they're really important as far as getting this energy resilience. So I said this was a microgrid. So a microgrid is really a systems of systems. It is a big, massive structure sometimes, but they really give us a secondary source in case of a failure, right? And a lot of these microgrids are focused on electrical. So they reduce our fossil fuel consumption, which is really important. Fossil fuels now we know are emitting some negative impacts to our air and our environment. So we want to reduce that usage. Well, having these type of projects is going to give us access to energy, so we're not so reliant on those. And they generate systems where you can track the source of the energy, the quantity of the energy that's being produced throughout. So it's really gives us a secondary power. So it's usually generators and batteries, storage, and this energy is just stored, and then when it's needed, can be utilized. Now, our mission dictates that these installations should be able to support themselves for nearly 14 days. That is the goal. Now, so it's pretty interesting, and a lot of the entities is how they get this energy is going to be based off of location, right? Because there's some different components that can help to generate that energy. It could be solar fields if you have areas that have a really high volume of sunlight. It could be wind turbines. So it includes a lot of coordination, but some of them are going to be based off of location and geography, right? So, but it's really important, and it's just it helps to serve as a secondary source in the event of an emergency. So, but there are some challenges in regards to this type of project, right? It has to be monitored on a regular basis. And so you have to manage the frequency limits, loads that is operating out of. Now, it can be connected on and off the grid. So it can, a microgrid can come up, it can join the power grid that's currently in place in a city or a location, or it can work independently. So it is a benefit on that, but it does require agreements. A lot of our military installations, some of them no longer manage those utilities alone. They've privatized them. So sometimes it takes a lot of coordination to get access and to divvy out the responsibility as far as who's doing what in those type of systems. So, but that's just another type of military construction projects that we do. So I'd just like to say that we at the Corps of Engineers need STEAM professionals. We do a variety of missions, and all of them are serving to protect the public and for us to support our other partners in their missions or whatever they do. So you don't have to be just an engineer. We can have entities that are ecologists, chemists, industrial hygienists, biologists. So everybody does not have to be an engineer, but if you saw in our navigation mission, we need machinists. We need equipment mechanics. So we need others. But throughout this all, as far as us at the Corps of Engineers, we need people to help us tell our stories. And so those are our public affairs type specialists that help us. But we also need to make our spaces comfortable, not only for us to execute our mission, but for access to those who might utilize them. So now we need those interior designers and stuff. So folks who are interested in arts and things, our public affairs folks use different platforms, right? We not only use social media, but we do news and media type interviews and things like that. So we have a lot of different STEAM professionals that help us to execute our mission. So with that, just a really quick blurb about myself. So this is me, and I am a civil engineer by education. And I also have a bachelor's and master's in civil engineering, but I also have a degree in construction engineering management. So I heard Mr. Eng talking earlier. So I am also a former Army officer. I was an engineer officer, so I did serve active duty for about 7.5 years between the National Guard and active duty Army. And I had some opportunities to deploy and do missions overseas in places like Iraq. And I managed a lot of different infrastructure projects, about $27 million worth when I was in Iraq. We did a lot of different missions. As a junior officer, I saw or supervised carpenters, electricians, plumbers, surveyors. So all of those folks helped us to accomplish the mission. And then I also was a geotech staff engineer as well. So I was studying soils and making determinations about foundations. I did materials testing. So I was out here testing concrete. So places like UPS, and they have those massive planes, they're carrying a great load. I was out here testing concrete to make sure it would maintain and the strength that would be needed to support such a load. So I like to say I've lived a couple different lives where I was a soldier, where I was an engineer, and I'm just excited that people like yourselves are interested in pursuing STEAM. And I would just like to close with us at the Corps of Engineers. We need people like you. You guys are the next generation of STEAM professionals. You can continue to help people like us solve the nation's problems and be responsive and support keeping the public safe and keeping our waterways navigable. So I thank you for your time, Jenny, and I would turn it back over to you, ma'am. I'm gonna stop sharing.
All right. Thank you very much, Stacey. We really appreciate your time today. Those inspiring words. It was awesome to explore the wide world of STEAM careers that you can find at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it. All right.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. We are going to transition to our next speaker. We have Jonathan Hughes here from the Speed School of Engineering. Jonathan, I am going to, oh, there we go. We're going to get you spotlighted here. And to give you guys a little intro for Jonathan, Jonathan is the Director of Admissions and Outreach at U of L Speed School. He's doing some awesome things to ensure student success and, that students are getting into the U of L Speed School while also inspiring passion for STEAM throughout our community. So, Jonathan, I'll let you go ahead and take it away. Thank you for being here.
Virginia, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you all for being here and participating in this session. Just as before, I love the previous presenters talking about just trying to get you all excited at participation in STEM and STEAM. It's critical. It's a critical mass. The more and more that we're reaching out, doing more outreach, doing more recruitment, the more we realize how important it is to just introduce STEAM to people and just how broad it is and what it encompasses. And so I oversee our recruitment. And so getting students into the JB Speed School of Engineering at the University of Louisville, but as well as our community engagement outreach, which is getting people excited, much like this session here and what all of our partners are doing here, trying to increase that. And so I have a few videos, but more importantly, I'm going to share my screen to share a PowerPoint. And so we'll go through some information, just get you more acclimated with what Speed School has to offer. So bear with me. 1 second. All right.
And it takes a second for screen sharing to pop up, but we'll let you know when we see something, Jonathan.
Okay, please do. All right, should.
Oh, looks like it's up there.
Look like it's up there. Oh, get out of here. We'll get that out. Ah, voila. Full screen. So we was originally known as the JB Speed School of Scientific School, though we have gone through some transition. But part of that transition is being focused on just creating new, exciting engineers coming from many different places. One of the things I always love talking about is helping people understand that JB Speed School of Engineering is not accelerated. It is just our name. We are, I say average engineering school, but average is in a really good engineering school. You cannot go wrong with any of them. But we feel that we offer something very unique and very special, especially at the JB Speed School of Engineering. One of those things that's unique about us at Speed School is we maintain that small environment. We have some of the strongest students coming not just from our state, but nationally, even internationally now as we're growing our programs. But we like to maintain that small feel, that small class size. That's so important for us. Our average class size is no more than 28 students per class. on average. That's so important. Making people make sure they feel seen, not disappearing. As you look at our national profile, we have some of the best and brightest students coming from all over Kentucky and the United States. But what's really important about that is helping people understand that there is a place at Speed School for you. No matter where you're from, what you look like, no matter who you are, is a place where I say it's very eclectic. We have a lot of wonderful, unique individuals coming together to pursue their passion. And for us, a passion is making a change. And when you have this passion and want to change the world, our job is to provide a specific degree in engineering to help you do that, which we'll talk about more later. But one of the things we understand is we have to make sure we provide access to students in engineering. So make sure we're going out, we're finding opportunities, especially throughout our state, especially throughout this United States and the region. There are so many wonderful engineers, so many wonderful opportunities and talent everywhere. We want them to know Speed School is a place for that. And so we also help them with scholarships. We like to provide scholarship dollars to students that are looking to pursue the degree to work at said companies like the Army Corps of Engineers, right? We want to make sure they can follow that passion without being burdened down with any debt. And so in some cases there will be some, in other cases there won't. Especially we have some uniqueness about our program that one, yes, provides scholarships, but two, allows you to work during school. While I say during, as in working full-time for a company, not actually taking classes, but earning dollars as you work, learning how to be an engineer. And there is no limitation on that. And so that's one of the first things we always lead with here at Speed School, is helping people understand that it is for you. Our big, what we call 7 degrees, our departments you'll see shortly, is ABET accredited. In order to become a professional engineer, right, to be able to take your FE, to get your P, to get that certification, you have to have completed an ABET. So that's the Accrediting Board of Engineering Technology. We actually just finished up our review this year to renew that once again for another 5 years. So you go through a review process. We just completed that with all positive marks. So just resounding yeses across the board. So we're happy to say we will be continuing our pursuit of offering degrees. So we've been doing this now for 100 years come August 2025. So we're excited to be continuing that on. One of the great things about that is our big 7 departments is ABET accredited at the bachelor's and master's. So if you were a student looking to come in, you're just focused on your bachelor's degree in engineering, wonderful. We provide that for you. There is no limitations there. But we're also the first and only engineering school to offer that at the bachelor's and master's level in all 7 of our departments, which we think is phenomenal. That you have the opportunity to go on as well to complete your master's in just an additional year after your bachelor's. And it's 2 pathways you could take. It is coursework or thesis-based. For those looking to go on to a master's, PhD, we definitely encourage you. We provide that support at the graduate level. But if you're just wanting to do the course space to learn more about the information you've learned, if you have a particular focus, you could pursue that. You could continue on through a thesis pathway. One of the things we always say, and we do talk about money, but money is significant because of the ability to have access. But beyond that is just the ability to come out and take the kind of job that you want to take, or be able to go and pursue the kind of career that you want to pursue. But our master's level is actually billed at the undergraduate rate. And so it's not an additional cost. Well, I say we're always trying to make getting those additional degrees as simplified as possible. Graduating in good standing and declaring for graduation with the pursuit of your master's is all you have to do is declare for your master's in engineering. That's very important for our students to know. There's not additional tests. There's not additional benchmark or metric you have to meet. We want you to be able to go on, pursue that master's without having too much burdensome in front of you, right? And eliminating those barriers. And so cost is one of those, but also no need for GRE, GMAT, any of that to be able to go on into our Masters of Engineering. We have a team that will help you with that while you're there. A part of really understanding what you could do in engineering is first understanding what engineering is about. It's the application of math and science to better the world and through engagement opportunities in science, audit, innovation. One of the ways we teach you that is through our first year experience. We want our engineering students to know that when they come in as a freshman, these are first year students you're seeing, working in the engineering space, in our engineering garage and lab, they're working together. Imagine just getting a small kit. In our case, we'll give them a pretty large kit. We'll put them in teams. They'll work in a makerspace to build that kit out. Understand there's going to be some missing parts. There's going to be some challenges. And you're going to have to research. You're going to have to design, model. You're going to also have to present and talk and communicate throughout the entire process. That's so important for us that you learn engineering application. And we start doing that literally in your first year. We call it the cornerstone. Many people think of capstone. That is the end of your 4 years, which we also have. But we want you to start learning what engineering is about the moment you step on our campus. And we do that by putting you through 2 courses in your first year through our first year experience, what we call engineering fundamentals, who teaches our first year experience, but we also teach our own math. And so when you're thinking about becoming an engineer, you think about all the math and chemistry and physics you have to take. We always tell students, rest assured that we're going to teach you that. We're going to teach you how it's applied. We're going to teach you that your math has purpose and present you with projects that are engineering based, especially in how they apply to the real world setting. We just don't want you taking random math courses or courses with just other majors. We want you to take them for engineering. That's why you're here, is to learn how to be an engineer. So before you decide what kind of engineer you want to be, we want you to first understand what it is to be an engineer. And that's our commitment and promise to you. We're going to help you do that through that first year experience. Why is that so critical to us? Very simple. Part of the Speed School brand is that we think of ourselves as a blue collar program. We really want you to understand that you're going to come here, get hands-on in the courses, in our labs, but more importantly, you're going to be able to go get hands-on in industry, right? Get that hands-on experience. As early as your second year, that sophomore year, some would think, you'll be able and be eligible to start working as an intern or co-op student, as we think about it at Speed School. For us, when you're co-oping, it's critical to understand you are working full-time for that company throughout that semester. And so it usually is the spring semester of your sophomore year, but we literally co-op spring, fall, and summer. So all terms where there's no limitations on the terms. Not all students are on the same pathway. We understand that. And not all students want to work in the same capacity. So we have 4 different iterations to our co-op or internship program. When we say co-op or like cooperative education, it's much like, for instance, I mentioned Army Corp because they just presented right before us a great presentation. We work with them a great deal. They're a great partner with us, but we have, as you see here, not just these 30 or 40, but over 200 different unique employers that we work with. So our companies will, or students will have the opportunity to go work with those companies, be able to go back on those, what we require 3 rotations, so a full year work experience, be able to work with them for those 3 rotations. But if they like, they can have 3 different experiences. So working at GE Aerospace, Blue Origin, going on to then say, hey, I want to do something like TechShot or NASA. You can do that. We also have a research pathway for those who are really focused in research, R&D, may have a bioengineering, chemical engineering mindset. That's something that you want to pursue. We will help you with that. We'll help you locate those specific internships, right? The specific research pathways. But then we have a global opportunity for students. So we call it our global co-op pathway for students who want to pursue engineering in a global aspect. As you all learn, we just don't build here. We just don't engineer and innovate here in Kentucky or Louisville or the United States. It's done throughout the world, right? And in some cases, we are in outer space. And we give our students that opportunity to do so. While our students are co-oping, they are paid. On average, they're making over $25 an hour. That's $10,000 a co-op. That's over $30,000 in their 3 co-ops. And when it's all said and done, we place 97% of our students within 3 months of graduation. Yes, they are getting an amazing engineering degree going to Speed School, but more importantly, we say they're getting amazing work experience with our companies. That is critical to our student success. And what's also critical is we're not extending your time that you're staying with us. We found that to be very important to what we're offering, what we're doing. And so to better understand that here, we talk about for our students, be able to complete your 4-year bachelor's degree within a 4-year time frame while also completing your co-op rotation. And if you're going to go on to do an additional year, being a 5th year or what have you, making sure it's tangible in the sense that you're getting an additional benefit. And for our case, that's a master's degree. So if students are spending more time with us, it's not to complete their bachelor's or their co-op. They're eligible to do that within the 4 years, as you see throughout the schedule, because we have a very unique schedule. We take advantage of your summers in college. And when we say take advantage of that, We always say we'll do usually about 10 weeks of academic coursework. You'll still get a month and a half off in the summer. So you still get a break. You still get to relax and regroup, but we're being advantageous. So we can build in your co-op experience in spring, in fall, and also their last co-op typically is in the summer. The reason why we do that is because when the other 85 to 90% of the engineering students are in class throughout the fall and spring, our students have a competitive advantage to go work for some of the best and the brightest companies. And that is very unique. We're really removing a lot of that competition in the field and the market already just by rearranging your schedule. You're going to have an entire co-op team working and helping you to place. And so that's critical. We're making sure that you walk right, talk right, present, build your resume. We're actually having career fairs that are happening semesters before the co-op. So we're literally having career fairs every semester. That's important that we're helping you establish those relationships. You're not required to take a co-op job at all. No, we encourage it, absolutely, but it's not required. But one of the things we do say is co-oping is required. We want you to get some type of work experience throughout your 4 years. That's so critical to what we're providing. That is what gives our students a leg up on the competition. And that 5th year is strictly your master's, strictly that academic or thesis-based coursework that you're doing. And so in 5 years, potentially, you can finish with an ABET accredited bachelor's degree in engineering, an ABET accredited master's degree in engineering, as well as a full year's worth of ABET accredited work experience. For us, that is what makes our students so employable, makes them so competitive, and makes them that speed school student that we know that people in our companies really appreciate. Earlier, I was mentioning the degree programs. And so the reason why we don't get hung up on forcing students into a degree pathway is this, the simple fact why you're here today is that you know you're interested in STEAM, but you don't know which pathway. We follow that same pursuit and that same ideology. We want students just to pursue a degree, not knowing what degree that may be it just yet. We'll help you with that. We actually give our students the full first year to determine what is the best degree pathway for them. And so we offer over 32 different degree pathways within our big 7 fields here, being bioengineering, chemical, civil, computer, electrical, industrial, and mechanical. We always tell everyone, go online, learn more, but come visit us, come explore engineering. It is so important to be able to talk to experts. We have over 300 different research pathways within our 7 majors here. And so we have a lot of different avenues students can take. Even then, our students will use certain majors as what we call springboards to professional school. For instance, bioengineering is a great pathway to medical school, dental school. Our civil engineering is a great way to law school and through our patent program that we offer in conjunction. We have students that will go on to the Masters of Business Administration to gain an MBA. In our computer engineering, we have a computer science major as well. We also have a computer science minor, computer engineering minor. We have different tracks and certifications being cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, data mining, data analytics. So we have a great deal of programs that we offer that we encourage you to check out more. And do understand you have the full year while in speed school to determine. And we have an entire student success and advising team that's going to help you and make sure we find the right pathway for you. And so that you don't have to conform to the degree will conform to you. And then there's something that we say that's just as important as everything we mentioned. And that's having a little fun. I know a lot of people think you go to engineering school. We always talk in the business. We're always talking the numbers. That is so important. But it's also important is that you enjoy your degree. You enjoy your time with us. And so we have over 100 different student organizations at the JB Speed School of Engineering. Those organizations include chemical, civil. We have affinity groups if you're identifying with a certain demographic. We have so many organizations like our Formula One Baja racing team, which is amazing. These are students in real action, getting out there, getting dirty, right? And we love that when they get to not tear up the cars too much. We got to pay for those, but they do get to tear them up, rebuild them from engine on up, right? We say that. And so our rocket team, a NASA competition rocket team, our Derby hacks team, we have so many different organizations. And by the way, we ethically hack. We always tell people our concrete canoe. We have so much to offer at the JB Speed School of Engineering. We always want them to know, have a little fun while you're pursuing your degree. It just enhances your experience, which we find to be really exciting. And so we hope you do as well. By the way, we have our own Greek life. And so if you ever thought the Greek life wasn't for engineers, you're wrong, because we have our own Greek life for our engineers. That also includes university, but please get invested, join us. We love that. And real quick, Virginia, if I have time, I have a short video.
Speed school definitely has a reputation of being tough. You know, I was really nervous. I heard about how much work it was going to take, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it. I still remember my first day of freshman year. I was walking through the tunnel under Grawemeyer, and I saw speed school, and I just thought to myself, what have you done, basically? I'm actually from Louisville. I was born and raised here. I went to DuPont Manual High School. So I basically lived my whole life within a 15-minute radius. So U of L is a lot more than just a place I went to school. It's really like home to me. I never thought about being in engineering before. I just heard how hard it was. What I didn't think about was the fact that I was going to work really hard. And I basically lived in the library my freshman year. And instead of drowning, I really thrived. And I found a community with both the faculty and the students where I felt like I belonged. The organization I've been most involved with is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. I actually got to restart the inactive chapter my junior year. At Speed School, I've also gotten the opportunity to have a lot of hands-on learning experiences. I had this incredible opportunity to co-op with Gulfstream. And so now I've had a year's work experience when I'm graduating, and I know I'm ready to jump into the workforce as a professional engineer. I think the greatest thing I've gained from Speed School is the ability to believe in myself, that I can do anything that I set my mind to, and to not be afraid of new challenges, because I know I'm going to work hard enough to be able to achieve them.
The last thing I'll end on is we actually will be completing our $100 million makerspace August 1st of this year, 2025. So please visit, please join us. Contact information is in the QR code. Please scan. If you need anything, I'm John. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for walking us through the accessibility of Speed School and giving us a picture of the incredible opportunities you could have as a student at Speed School. So we are very grateful for your time, and thank you so much. All right, you guys. Well, now we are going to transition to our last speaker, Dr. Wong. He is an educator at Mercy Academy, but he also leads the STEAM lab there and conducts some awesome research. So I'm going to pass it along to you, Dr. Wong.
All right. Everybody see me? Hopefully.
Yes, we can see and hear you.
All right, great. So I'm just gonna talk real quick about my career trajectory, and hopefully that informs some of you as far as the kinds of possibilities you might have. So basically, I'm currently teaching. So let's rewind backwards. I'm currently teaching high school. And I teach biology, and I teach computer science, I teach engineering, so a whole breadth of things, which is kind of what I like. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because I can touch a whole lot of different sciences, and or engineering or technological fields, right? So this allows me to help some students do projects on fetal alcohol syndrome. So one of my students right now is doing a project on the effects of alcohol on developing chick embryos, for instance, which kind of leveraged some of what I've done in the past when I was doing academic research. So it's kind of cool being able to do that, but also interests that I've had since really childhood in computer science and programming. I've been able to kind of develop that, even though that wasn't really my professional training up until now. So it's kind of cool, and I'm happy that I ended up here. So before this, though, just to kind of bring things back a little bit, I spent a little bit of time writing textbooks on cell biology, this was during a time when for various reasons, I ended up staying at home for a little while with my daughter. And so that gave me a good bit of time to be able to write. So that was kind of an interesting process, kind of going through that process of trying to organize your thoughts and how you would teach something. And so I've had a little bit of experience doing that as well. Moving further back, I have been a university professor. So I was a biology professor. I taught cell and molecular biology and neurobiology, developmental biology. And these are all topics that I was really interested in. And so I was happy to be able to teach those. I also ran a lab. And so one of the things that I was really interested in, and still am, in research is development of the brain, right? And so if you think about the brain, we start off with a bunch of cells, right? And they have to kind of crawl their way through a bunch of other cells and try to make a correct connection somewhere else. And so that's the problem that I was really interested in trying to figure out, right? So how does this little cell here start to stretch out, make its way out, and connect to the correct cell elsewhere? And so that was the focus of both my lab when I was teaching as a professor. And then also that was the focus of a lot of my research back when, even further back when I was doing my graduate work and earning my degree. So just to tell you a little bit about that, because to me, I think it's really cool, right? Because it's this process where the nerve cell has to send out an exploratory process, right? So if you kind of think about the nerve cell starting over here, right? So it's this little round thing, and it starts to kind of push out, and it stretches out a thin little process. And at the end of it, it's got this hand-like thing. And I mean, I'm using my hand because it's actually pretty reasonable. And I don't know about you guys, but when I play with little puppies and kittens, you kind of do this and get them to play with your fingers. That's exactly what the growth cone is doing. So that's the tip of the growing neuron, and it's just exploring, right? It's got these little wavy fingers, and it's exploring the chemical environment as it moves around and deciding which areas it wants to avoid and kind of go away from, and which areas it wants to go towards. So a lot of my research has been on that, which I think is really cool, right? Because we're talking about making decisions going through hundreds, if not thousands, of different possible other target cells on the way from its origin to its target. So all that spanned a good over a decade, maybe a decade and a half of my research career. All right. And I went to graduate school in Cleveland at Case Western Reserve University. And one of the things I wanted to tell you guys about is that with graduate school, at least in the medical sciences or the biological sciences, a lot of times this is something that you don't have to, well, a lot of times you can get it at least partially paid for through either grants, fellowships, and basically TAs where you can teach or do research alongside your studies. And so a lot of times this is actually a great idea, especially if you're really interested in research. That's the path you're really going to take. You're going to go from your undergraduate, your college career, and then go into graduate school and hopefully get that terminal degree, get that doctorate, and get a lot of research experience along the way. So that for me was really interesting. I looked at, and at a lot of places you get to explore what it is that you want to do. So that is, and I know in the previous talk, in the last talk, they talked about how in that first year you get to try out different kinds of engineering. We kind of did that the same when I was my first year of graduate school. We basically go around and rotate through a bunch of different labs that we might be interested in, and then kind of figure out which one we really want to settle on and kind of do our main research with. So that's a lot of, so you get to pick up a lot of different techniques. So during that time, I ended up mostly working on mice and chicks because their brains are fairly accessible, and at least with chicks, they're pretty cheap relative to raising mice. But before that, I was able to work on a lot of other animals, rats and mice and rabbits and so on. So it was kind of neat to be able to look at a lot of different possibilities. Working, I guess, backwards from there. I went to college in the Boston area. I went to MIT, and that was really a cool experience. And the main thing I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about from there is the importance of doing undergraduate research or internships, depending on what field you're going into, if at all possible. It's so valuable to be able to get into a lab or into a work environment if you're going engineering or something like that, and see what it's actually like to work with graduate students and professors and see what the daily routine is as a professional scientist. And I think for me, I had a bunch of different experiences when I was an undergrad. I worked in kind of bioinformatics, doing more kind of computer analysis of genes. I worked in a biotechnology lab where we were devising, drug tests, and so a whole range of things. So if you have the opportunity to, you absolutely, it's such a valuable experience to do those kinds of undergraduate research and internships. The other thing I wanted to mention from my undergraduate is basically don't let unexpected turns in life kind of deter you from where you want to go. So all kinds of weird things can happen. And in my case, my wife and I had a kid as undergraduates, just kind of unexpected, but a blessing anyway. And but a lot of times you hear about people who have to kind of veer off and not pursue their interests and dreams, but you can. You just have to persist and find support, and you'll be able to do that. So anyway, I'm trying to kind of compress stuff so that we can end close to on time. Happy to take any questions now. If you have any questions about kind of the journey to being a professional scientist, a researcher, or a teacher.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Wong. Thank you for the encouraging words and for talking more about the diversity of directions your career has taken you. Really appreciate it. So what are some of the things you're doing now that are maybe your favorite things?
So right now, I mentioned doing the research with some of the students. So that's really exciting that we're able to bring original research to the high school level. I think that's actually fairly uncommon, and I wish it wasn't. So we're really trying to build that, I think. And we've done that as well. We have some engineering and sort of ecological survey projects. We actually have a submarine that we take down to Mammoth Cave, and we explore the cave water systems to try to discover new passageways, also do cave life surveys. And so again, in that case, we're collaborating with professional scientists, and the goal is always to help students really get the excitement of discovery, right? That science and engineering is really all about that excitement that you get when you discover something new, or you come up with a cool solution to a problem. And that's something that's invaluable, I think. And it's just such a great feeling to get that every time you, maybe not every time you run an experiment. A lot of experiments fail, but when you do get the experiment that actually works the way you want it to, it's just an amazing feeling.
That's wonderful. Dr. Wong, thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Right. Awesome.
Good to have you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our virtual Youth Science Summit. We really appreciate your time, your engagement, and we hope you can join us again next year for our next virtual Youth Science Summit. So thank you very much, and we hope that you get a chance to come visit us here at the Science Center. We also can get out to you in our offsite programs. We have some great virtual programs to explore, like our Pulse of Surgery. So we hope to engage with you again soon. Thank you.